direction.
Yeah, let me come to you, Doc. Let's continue from where we left off yesterday. Today, the numbers are clearer. We can see 157 going to the NDC, 3 independent candidates, 63 going to the MPP. The numbers are still coming in. The NDC has made some projections on how many
official certified results, right?
From our part, on our part,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
On other platforms, you may see different numbers, but we like to certify before we announce. So we put it out there. So these are on our part. We've seen other numbers coming from the NDC on how many seats they believe they have won. Are there any surprises for you at the moment?
Oh.
Especially when you look at Ashanti and Greater Accra.
Is it the case that Bantama has been won by the NDC? Because I saw something like that on. So it's
one of the seats that we are waiting to hear from. So for Bantama in particular, we cannot confirm at the moment.
That will be probably the surprise of the 2024 elections. I will get dazed because that will have meant that indeed the cracks within the NPP, I don't know if they will be able to mend that unless they undertake sweeping reforms throughout the party.
Like what?
Get rid of all the national executives, probably the one that you think has conducted himself well, freely and fairly, to the grassroots and all those in terms of responsiveness and other things.
All the national executives?
All of them. Because they've been part of the decay. If you cannot speak truth to power, when the grassroots are complaining bitterly, it is an interface. Look, somebody was asking me, why did they lose in such a gargantuan Hurricane Katrina manner? And I said that no government will wipe out the effect of the middle class and expect to win an election. It won't happen.
The effect of the middle class?
Yes. When you wipe out the capacity, the purchasing capacity of the middle class.
You're talking about the...
You can't survive.
All right.
Because they are an interface between the upper class and the lower class. The lower class do not have access to members of the upper class. Where they have access, and they are in the majority in terms of numbers, is the middle class. So if you wipe out their purchasing power, you will see that poverty at the lower class level will increase. It will exacerbate. So you see, when by the close before the end of 2022, the World Bank told us that over 800,000 Ghanaians are falling below the poverty line. That is the effect of our policies and interventions. But before I go into the nitty-gritty, let me equally, account for what Senior Ansan just put out there. The MPP is a conservative party, and they believe in gradual progression of senior colleagues, those who would have paid their due within the party. So I would take the leadership, for example. When President Akufo wanted to, take out Professor Aboagye, he was told that his time was not due. So he had to wait. Now when Professor Aboagye was no longer going to be in the fray, you saw Akufo came up. Then when Akufo came up, President Akufo was to contest him, he himself, on the day that he acknowledged the role of Alan Chemantin, said, you see, that that particular election that got him elected as a flag bearer, at that time, President Akufo, his interventions were creating an opportunity for Alan to usurp the possible progression or succession of Mr. Akufo. And he complained about that. That when I wanted to do ABC, they told me it was not my time. Why are you trying to jump Alan over me? So the people bought into that idea, the conservativeness, and they voted for him. The question is, you equally pronounced that, Alan, when it is your time, I will support you. You are no longer coming into the fray. Why do you turn around and support Bawumia against Alan.
Why do you think
so?
that
You are truncating the natural itself, because it is not everybody who will be happy about that particular decision of yours. So you see,
if that was the case, why did they not vote for Alan then? If they were not happy that Akufo was, why did they not vote for Alan? Because they did not vote for him.
The machinery, the government machinery put in place did not in any way inure to the benefit of Alan. Everything had been orchestrated in favor of Bawumia.
Those were the words he put out, Alan put out, that it appeared that the election had been orchestrated in favor of one candidate.
Is it not strange that it's not strange that we are 10 in number? 9 of us say that let us regionalize the elections. The one who does not prefer a view, the executive says, no, they said let us concentrate it, right? Let us concentrate it, like what they have been doing. Then the executive say, no, we are going to regionalize it. Now, what that means is that if you don't have resources at your disposal, you are at a disadvantage. You need agents, right? You need to finance a lot of people throughout the 16 regions. Now, the one that is more resourceful is at advantage. And Dr. Bawumia, it appears that happens to be the case. That was when I brought this term of, what is it called? This word has even escaped me. More or less like a stethoscope, but like...
Name dropping?
No. It's an American term where, like, the entire bureaucracy of government, right, and the powers behind you, the establishment, where the establishment, everything, I mean, if you're DC and you have a vote, you are at the beck and call of the president. If you're an MP, you want to carry the eye of the president, you're at the beck and call of the president. All these machinery and establishment were positioned to favor a particular candidate. But the NPP, as conservative as there will be that kind of a rebuff of what the establishment will try to do. So you will see that a whole presidential candidate, internal elections, you could not make 70%. You are not a strong candidate. See the percentage of President Akufo, right? In the 90s. That means that he has a solid control, a firm control over the internal affairs and mechanisms of the party. Dr. Bawumia is hovering around 61 in the 60s. So this was likely to reflect. It was likely to reflect. I don't know if there's one thing also that I say about the tradition. They say it is Buzia Dankwa Dombo, right? Tradition. Dankwa Buzia Dombo. Good. So if you are a member of the MPP and you don't come from any of the three, what are your chances that you can rise to become a vice or a presidential candidate?
When you say come from, you mean in terms of family or lineage?
Whichever. Tradition.
Or just a believer in the tradition?
The tradition.
A believer in the tradition?
Yes. There are Ghanaians in the MPP, right? There are Westerners. There are Central people, right? You have those in the middle. Okay, maybe you can add a middle belt to Buzia or something of that sort. So my argument has always been that if that is the source of the tradition, and I am rising, a shining star within the party, what are my chances? Because if a Buzia has taken over, that was the first in the Fourth Republic, President Akufo, President Akufo, a Dankwa tradition, that is the current president, and then Dr. Bawumia, who is attributed to be a Dombo.
Like that.
Well, because the Dombo is like a reflection of the North.
Okay.
Not necessarily a particular, because that is how they have carved it. So
no, but just to check this one, you see, Bawumia's father was, a very strong CPP. CPP. He didn't belong to the Dombo tradition.
Yeah. I'm told the mother is even, having a persuasion for the NDC or something of that sort. But his family, yes, his family is a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
PNC.
So now the point
you made a very strong point that I think the MPP stalwarts, who are listening, watching, must consider.
It's a philosophical, analysis of this
because you see, as you rightly pointed out, if you don't, you know, situate your connection, you know, among
the Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition, you're out.
You are out. Now, the way former President Akufo handled the Nana Akufo-Addo Alantre-Mantin issue has also, you know, played back to create some confusion within our setup. You know, Akufo wanted, he had wanted Alantre-Mantin. Nana Addo had none of that. That issue was settled at Tesano. I was part of it. I was then the vice chair of the MPP Finance Committee. And Nana Addo, you know, voiced his complaints. He said, by tradition, as he said, you have to pay your dues. If it is not your turn, you cannot be taken out of 10. You have to wait. You see, and it wasn't Alantre-Mantin's turn yet.
At the time.
At the time. So those of us who kicked against it, you know, also suffered one way or the other. This is the same, you know, factor that Nana Addo has used against Alantre-Mantin.
When it was his turn.
When it was his turn. And we spoke against it. So this is a very strong point that you have raised, you know, that I think should send, you know, a message to the MPP. But I think in trying to regroup, the MPP will find it very difficult. If you go to Bronhafo, they had one person there, Amabuzia, who, you know, answered to the Buzia tradition. Amabuzia was it last year or 2 years ago? So there's no connection again. This is what I meant by the disconnect. The youth, what we are saying, it means nothing to them. And if the MPP has to regroup and, you know, group, they must go the way.
I want us to get into what they can do now, as they are going into opposition. I mean, during the 4 years in opposition, what specific things can they do to regroup? You suggested remove all the national executives or those who are not doing what is expected of them. Let's look at the other possible things they can do to regroup and come back in 2028. But we were just talking about Bantama, and I see that the Bantama results have just been declared. So let's go over and take a look at the results declared in Bantama. The NPP has won. Let's just put that out first. The NPP has won, and the numbers are as follows on your screen. Francis Asensio-Boakye has won by 85.49%. 85.49%. That is the results coming in now. Francis Asensio-Boakye for the MPP has won by 85.49% by a margin of 47,275. All right. And the NDC's candidates, Addo lost. His percentage is 14.51%, margin 8,023, 8,023. The difference is 39,252. That's the difference. 39,000. That's a huge number. 39,252. It's a huge number. So there you have it. The results just coming in from Bantama. It's one of the constituencies that we've been waiting to hear from. You know, it took a while to come, but it has come now. The NPP won that seat. Francis Asensio-Boakye has won. The margin is very wide. I mean, he's won by over 85%. So congratulations to him. Doc, this is a constituency you were waiting to hear from as well.
I mean, I think at dawn, one of your colleagues.
Yes.
You guys were...
We were unsure. I mean, our correspondent on the ground, Anita Akufo at the time, explained to us that the visuals we had seen earlier showing a lot of NDC people jubilating, they were jubilating because of the presidential results. Okay. And so, not because of the parliamentary. Oh. So it had nothing to do with the parliamentary. So when Bawumia conceded, the NDC...
It was part of the euphoria.
Yes, the NDC folks started jubilating. It had nothing to do with the parliamentary results. So this is the results now, the NPP won.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a given. That's why I was saying that would have been the surprise of the 24 elections. I mean, it's just unbelievable. As disgruntled and apathetic as they have all become, if you see the attendance generally in the Ashanti region, I mean,
yes.
to think, to hazard a guess that that particular seat would have shifted to the NDC would have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that being said, is it the case that the presidential NDC won presidential, or that one is not yet in?
That one is not yet in as well.
Oh, okay.
So we're waiting. Okay. We're waiting to hear that one as well. But we have some provisional results from the central region, the Western, North, Ahafo, and Eastern as well to share with you. Some provisional results coming in now from Ahafo, Western, North, Central, and Eastern region. We're going to put that on the screen in a moment so that you can also see.
I wanted to speak briefly on the one you started.
Yes, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, I watched.
Asin Central,
yes, Asin Central. I listened to this community. I don't know if it is you guys that
Community
did that,
Manifesto,
or City FM or something like that. So community yeah. And if you listen to the indigenous citizens over there, I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible. The economy was biting so hard. What they were saying was that whatever they are selling their wares, they don't buy. You have tomatoes, they get rotten. You get them at high prices. You cannot reduce the price. What do? Then by the time you say Jack, they are all decomposing. Joblessness, something that they spoke about. Now, when it comes to the MPship itself, most often than not, it depends on the individual candidate more than the presidential candidate. That being said, if your party is in government and you are a member of parliament of an area, the sons of the mother party or the central government could easily visit, right, your constituency. And those are the issues of joblessness, the economy, and other things. Infrastructure, building of infrastructure, the inadequacy of that. Because whenever government undertakes monumental infrastructure development, it affects the local economy in terms of the hiring of artisans, the masons, the carpenters, and all those things. And you know that the informal sector dominate our economy more than the formal sector. So if you don't bring these interventions, if these interventions don't come up in these constituencies, they will, at the end of the day, affect the fortunes of not only the central government, but also the MP of that particular place.
You don't think that the MPP lost simply because Kennedy Japan did not contest?
I'm coming there. I'm coming. So it will simply come to the interventions of the MP himself.
Okay.
You see, the dynamism, the resourcefulness of that individual will go a long way to either increase the number both of himself and that of because it will reflect the presidential. You see that positive correlation. So I may want to think that the person that won in his stead to contest for the MPP may not be that same person. You know, if you listen to Mr. Kennedy, for example, you will see that it is not the MPship that pays him, that rewards him. He took delight in intervening. In fact, remaining an MP was more costlier than not being an MP. And he had cause to suggest that Sikafia, MPP, in that derogatory matter, he was hauled before the Privileges Committee and so on and so forth. And so a lot depends. Because now, that is why I always say that if we are talking of ex gratia, in my sincerest, disposition, I think the MPs deserve ex gratia than any other arm of government.
Because of the personal inputs they have
I'm telling you.
Yeah, their personal interventions for their constituents. Attending
funerals, weddings.
Do they have to do all these things?
They will say you are not present. These are intangibles.
Do you think it's time we looked at the role of members of parliament properly and get constituents to understand what exactly their members of parliament are to do?
If only the central government would do the needful, why would we be harassing MPs? Why would we? Why? If I am gainfully employed, what am I going to do at the MP's office or home? To do what? If he is gracing an occasion that I have organized, he is just gracing it not because he is coming to dole out money. You see, that is how it should be. But unfortunately, poverty is so endemic in our part of the world. And the politicians themselves have been profiting from keeping our people in abject poverty. Aristotle tells us that, look, if you want to control a certain number of the population, it's as if you must always have 10% of that population not lettered. Those are the people you will always be in a position to control. You need that particular section. But if we were to ensure that people have jobs, why would we want to give free education? If a family is well employed, well engaged, they will see to it that it is their responsibility to own their child so that tomorrow they can gratefully say that we educated our child. These freebies, at the end of the day, I have sat down and I've analyzed. Look, if we go on, we don't review free SHS, cumulatively, it will collapse the middle, level education. Because at the end of the day, we are only going to concentrate on quantity and not quality. If you care to know, how can someone get to level 400, 300 in a university and cannot speak one English sentence right? How did he pass?
Is that correct?
How did he pass?
No, is that correct?
That
there are people who would finish and they cannot speak one word of English.
No. Well,
but let me
you have passed through the system. You know people who just cannot construct. They can't communicate.
Let me ask you, if Kennedy,
telling you.
But how? Okay, let's assume that's correct. How is that the doing of the free SHS?
I'm not saying free SHS. I'm generally saying that, look, the kind of generation we are training today, they feel so entitled. That sense of entitlement does not make them up their game. It's like, and the practice is from the bottom up. Now, you come to the university and you find out that, look, if you if you don't do well, you are going out. UCC, we don't pamper certain things, right? That is why we are still the number one. We don't pamper certain things. Even these days, we have tried to keep quite a number of people because the sacking rate in those years was quite high. You don't get the necessary, passing, and you are out of the system. These days, we are trying to, ensure that we keep quite a number by giving them different opportunities for them to. Because sometimes some may have different challenges, and that may have impacted on them negatively. So the system is giving them opportunity to get their things right.
But Doctor, to share this, assuming Kennedy Japan had stood, if he had contested, would he have won? In spite of all that you have said,
he wouldn't. He wouldn't. I mean, the change. But I said that could have been a source of confusion in the minds of the electorate. You see, he preached the idea of a departure from the norm, because the norm was nothing to write home about in terms of the record of the president and that of Dr. Bawumia. So he was a complete departure from the norm, or from the status quo, from the establishment. That could have energized the grassroots in terms of percentage and in terms of attendance.
Okay.
It could have easily done so. His problem, as I said on Onia yesterday, is the fact that I think that his presidential ambition is an afterthought. He just wanted to show some people within the party that he is the grassroots man, he is the man of the people, the likes of Wuntumi and Co, who were passing inimical, comment about him. He just wanted to show the establishment that he has power, some gravitas, right, in the system. That is why he did so.
He didn't intend to win.
He intended to, but he had some negatives that, you see what Ananda Prayer told him, that he is unpresidential. That really act him up.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
That was very below the belt.
I want us to go for the provisional results that have now come in from the Central Region, Western, North, Ahafo, and Eastern. These are provisional results for the presidential race. All right, from these four regions. Let's take a look. All right, now we have provisional results from the Eastern region, the Ahafo region, the Western North and Central region. We are going to start with Bunu East on your screen in a moment. There we go. All right, so these are the presidential results from Bunu East. For President-elect John Dramani Mahama, he polled 216,691, making 62.43%. For the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he polled 124,811, and that's making 35.96%. Provisional results that we can confirm from the Bunu East region this morning for the presidential race. All right. All right, let's go on to the next one now. All right. So this is the Bunu region. This is the Bunu region. For presidential, for the president-elect John Dramani Mahama, he polled 235,681 votes, making 53.74%. And the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, representing the NPP, polled 192,773, making 43.96% for the Bunu region. All right, so let's go on to the next one. This is the Eastern region now. Numbers coming in, provisional results. For the president-elect John Dramani Mahama, he polled 453,234, making 47.11%. And the vice president polled 493,234, making 51.27%. For the Eastern region. All right, we'll come back to the Eastern region shortly, but let's go on to the next region now. All right, this is the Northeast region. For the Northeast region, John Dramani Mahama polled some high figures, so did the Vice President. All right, this is the Northeast region. Is it correct? This is the Northeast region. All right, we're going to come back to the provisional results in a moment. But let's come back to our in-studio discussions. I'm still in studio with Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ochiri, political analyst with the UCC, and he was just telling us about the excellent results the UCC graduates, often achieve because they don't play at UCC. No. You have to do the work, and you have to pass properly before you come out. This is something that we all know, and that's why he says the UCC is number one. I'm also in studio with Mr. Kweku Ansasari, former director at the Ghana School of Law and founder of Mount Crest University College. Gentlemen, I'm sorry I cut you there. We had to bring you those provisional results, Doc.
Well, I don't even know where
I interrupted.
Yes, UCC results. I think that I can attest to what Doc just said.
Okay.
Most of our graduates these days about just being charitable. So I'll put it at 40%. Quite a number of them. And one factor is the proliferation of new tertiary institutions. Some of the new university colleges are just awarding grades and raw marks, that are aligning to, the proficiency of the students.
This is at a tertiary level.
Yes.
Okay, since you are both educationists, perhaps we are going a little off topic, but I should ask you, what are some of the things you think can be done in reviewing the free SHS to make it better?
Well, if you are to go by the manifesto of the NDC, for example, okay, Dr. Bawumia sought to suggest that they were going to improve it, but as to the manner they were going to do that, they did not put out there. But to say that you are going to improve it, it means you know there are some inherent challenges, right? Or problems that you want to improve. In the case of the NDC one, you see, nobody can learn when you are hungry.
Okay.
Hunger does not go with learning.
Okay.
And these are youth at the nascent stages of their life. They can eat a lot. Yes, they can eat a lot. They are not like us. So if the feeding aspect is problematic, it will affect their academic input and output.
So first, give them good food.
2, give them good food. Unfortunately, our current government has centralized the distribution of that supply. He is proposing a decentralization. That in itself is supposed to create jobs at different regions, at different districts. Because which part of this country that they don't produce plantain, they don't produce cassava, they don't produce yam, they don't plant, tomatoes and all those things. That all these things you will have to wait for someone, and rice and coal. So they are doing some of these things, and rice is a staple food. So that is one. But he is of the view that he will want to call like a Senche type of gathering, where the unions, the education, those specialists, politicians for that matter, they will have to gather to come out with a kind of result oriented that will be the force behind the review. And with that, people will own it. It shouldn't be someone sitting in Accra and implementing everything centralized. No. We should be able to decentralize that. The brain is not domiciled in Accra. You see,
the brain is not domiciled in Accra.
It's not only domiciled in Accra. Elsewhere, because headmasters could not speak, teachers could not speak. I mean, you cannot say, for example, that when you started implementing it, you said in the next 5 years, double track will be gone. Double track has been the main bane of parents. And just yesterday, a woman was telling me how they will have to engage teachers to teach their words, these extra classes, when they are not on campus.